The golden document floated in the center of the room, its alien symbols glowing softly against the dark metal walls. Riley Kane watched it spin slowly, each rotation revealing new sections written in humanity's ancient languages. The Galactic Council had made sure every human could read this treaty in their own words. They wanted no confusion about what Earth was signing. Around the circular chamber, 3 alien delegates sat in their environmental suits. The crystalline being from the hegemony sparkled like cut diamond, its faceted body reflecting the document's light in rainbow patterns. The collective's representative looked like a walking tree made of dark coral, thousands of tiny organisms working together to form something that barely resembled a person. The Dominion's ambassador wore robes that seemed to move by themselves, hiding whatever shape lurked beneath. Riley had spent 3 days studying this treaty. Her team of lawyers and scientists had called it the greatest gift in human history. Unlimited clean energy, medical technology that could extend human life to match other galactic species, and most importantly, protection from the void hunters that had been destroying colonies on the galaxy's edge. All Earth had to do was sign. The crystalline delegate spoke first, its voice ringing like wind chimes. Ambassador Kane, your species has shown remarkable progress in the 3 centuries since contact. The Council believes humanity is ready for full integration into galactic society. Riley nodded politely but said nothing. She had learned long ago that aliens interpreted human silence differently than other humans did. To them, quiet meant agreement. They never expected the storm that could follow. The collective's representative made sounds like rustling leaves. Your people will benefit greatly from the harmony protocols. No more war, no more want, no more uncertainty. Every human world will know peace. The Dominion's delegate remained silent, but Riley felt something probing at the edges of her thoughts. She had trained for this, learning meditation techniques that helped resist psychic intrusion. The alien presence withdrew after a moment, apparently satisfied. The genetic standardization program will ensure your species' long-term survival, the crystalline being continued. Human biology will be enhanced to match galactic norms. Your lifespans will triple, your physical capabilities will improve, and your mental patterns will achieve the stability necessary for peaceful coexistence. Riley felt a chill run down her spine. Mental patterns. Stability. She had read those sections of the treaty dozens of times, and each reading made her more uncomfortable. What exactly do you mean by mental stability? She asked. The 3 aliens exchanged glances, or whatever passed for glances among their species. The collective answered. Humans display concerning levels of individual variation. Your thoughts are chaotic, unpredictable. The standardization process will align your neural patterns with proven galactic models. You want to change how we think? You will think better, the crystalline delegate said. More efficiently, more peacefully. The aggressive tendencies that mark your species will be moderated. Your art and culture will benefit from this harmony. Riley remembered her briefings about other species that had joined the council. The Zanari had been warriors once, feared throughout their sector. Now they were peaceful farmers who had not produced a single work of military science in 200 years. The Keth had been explorers, pushing into dangerous regions of space. With reckless abandon, they now stayed close to their homeworlds, content with virtual realities provided by the Council. And if we refuse? The silence that followed stretched for long minutes. Finally, the Dominion's delegate spoke for the first time, its voice echoing strangely inside Riley's head. No species has refused Council protection, Ambassador. The galaxy is dangerous for those without guidance. Riley looked at the floating treaty again. Buried in the complex legal language were clauses that would transfer Earth's military command to Council oversight within 50 years. Human colonies would be relocated to safer sectors under alien supervision. Earth's educational system would be reformed to emphasize galactic citizenship over human heritage. It was not protection. It was absorption. I need to consult with my government, Riley said. The decision must be made now, the crystalline being replied. The void hunters grow bolder. 3 more colonies were destroyed last month. Earth cannot delay its acceptance. of council authority. Riley stood up, her movement causing all three aliens to shift nervously. Humans were larger than most galactic species, and their unpredictable nature made even friendly gestures seem threatening. "Then you have my answer," she said. "Earth refuses." The chamber erupted into chaos. The collective's representative made sounds like breaking branches. The crystalline delegate's body flared with angry light. The Dominion's ambassador finally stood, its robes billowing as psychic energy filled the room. "Impossible!" the crystalline being shrieked. "No species refuses council protection. You doom your entire world." Riley pulled out a small device from her jacket and activated it. Immediately, her words were being broadcast to Earth below, cutting through the alien jamming systems that surrounded the orbital station. "Citizens of Earth," she began, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. "The Galactic Council's treaty is not protection. It is conquest. They want to change us, to make us like every other species they have absorbed. They want to take away what makes us human." Security forces were already moving toward the chamber. Riley could hear their heavy footsteps in the corridors outside. "The genetic standardization protocols will alter our minds, our bodies, our very souls. The military oversight clauses will make us slaves in all but name. The colony relocation programs will scatter our people across the galaxy until we forget what Earth looks like." The chamber doors burst open. Alien guards in powered armor rushed in, weapons drawn. But Riley kept talking, knowing her words were reaching every human settlement from Luna to the outer colonies. "They call the enemies we face void hunters, but I have found references to 16 other species that faced similar ultimatums. 16 species that refused to submit and were branded as galactic threats. Where are they now? What happened to those who said no?" The guards reached her, but Riley did not resist. She let them grab her arms while she finished her broadcast. "I call upon Earth to stand with me. We are human. We are chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous, and free. That is not a flaw to be corrected. It is a strength to be celebrated. The galaxy fears us because we cannot be controlled, cannot be predicted, cannot be absorbed. Today, I chose to remain human. I ask you to make the same choice." The transmission cut off as alien technology finally overwhelmed her broadcaster. Riley found herself surrounded by confused and angry aliens who had never encountered such defiance. They had expected gratitude, submission, acceptance. Instead, they had received humanity's first declaration of independence from galactic authority. As they dragged her from the chamber, Riley smiled. Earth would have to choose now between comfortable slavery and dangerous freedom. She had faith in what choice her species would make. Humans had never chosen the easy path when the right path was available. The real war was about to begin. Earth's emergency broadcasts filled every screen and speaker from New York to the mining stations beyond Pluto. Riley Kane's words echoed through crowded city squares and empty asteroid bases, while angry crowds demanded answers from their leaders. The Global Assembly building in Geneva was surrounded by protesters, some calling Riley a hero, others demanding her arrest for endangering all humanity. President Davis Chen watched the chaos from his office window, his advisors arguing loudly. Behind him, 3 alien battle fleets had appeared at the edge of the solar system within hours of Riley's broadcast. They were not attacking yet, but their message was clear. Submit or face the consequences. She has doomed us all, Foreign Minister Lisa Park said, pacing frantically across the room. The Council has protected us for 3 centuries. Without them, we are nothing. Protected us from what? Asked General Paul Mason, his weathered face grim. From the void hunters they created? From threats they manufacture to keep us dependent? Chen turned from the window. Do we have any proof of Riley's claims? Dr. Anna Webb stepped forward, holding a datapad. She was Earth's leading expert on alien cultures, and her face showed the exhaustion of someone who had not slept in days. I have been analyzing the galactic databases we were given access to. There are gaps, missing records that span decades. 16 species that were mentioned in early documents simply disappear from later records. No explanation, no trace of what happened to them. Maybe they moved to other sectors, Park suggested desperately. Webb shook her head. I found fragments, pieces of information that survived the purges. The Wanderers were the last to refuse council authority before us. They were described as a peaceful trading species, but the final records call them aggressive expansionists and threats to galactic stability. The language is identical to how they describe us now. Meanwhile, on Mars Colony, Riley Kane was learning the truth about humanity's hidden resistance networks. Rex Torres had smuggled her off the orbital station in a cargo hauler, using routes that bypassed council monitoring stations. The former military officer had been part of an underground movement for years. Humans who suspected their alien benefactors had darker motives. The Red Planet's underground cities had been built using human engineering, far from alien oversight. In hidden chambers beneath the main colonies, hackers and researchers had been intercepting galactic communications for decades. What they had discovered would have been impossible to believe if not for Riley's own evidence. The Void Hunter attacks are coordinated, explained Dr. Michael Grant, a thin man whose eyes blazed with fanatic intensity. Every strike happens at precisely the moment a species begins questioning council authority. The timing is too perfect to be coincidence. Riley studied the data streams flowing across multiple screens. You are saying the council controls them? Not controls, commands. The Void Hunters are not some external threat. They are the council's enforcement arm, made up of species that refuse to submit peacefully. They are turned into weapons against others who might resist. The implications hit Riley like a physical blow. The 16 species that disappeared are still out there, twisted into something unrecognizable, used to terrorize others into submission. That is what awaits us if we fight and lose. On Earth, the truth was spreading through channels the aliens could not monitor. Human communication networks had always been chaotic, redundant, impossible to fully control. Underground broadcasters picked up where official channels were jammed. Social networks shared information faster than alien sensors could react. Dr. Emma Stone, a neurobiologist at Oxford, had been studying human brain patterns when Riley's broadcast reached her. The ambassador's words about mental standardization triggered a memory from her research into alien psychology. She pulled up her files on collective mental patterns, data she had gathered during cultural exchanges. The uniformity was perfect, too perfect. Every member of the collective showed identical neural pathways, identical responses to stimuli. They were not a hive mind by nature. They had been made into one. Her hands shook as she accessed restricted medical files from council worlds. Species after species showed the same pattern. Neural diversity erased, creativity eliminated, individual thought suppressed. The genetic standardization protocols were not improvements. They were lobotomies disguised as medicine. Stone's research revealed humanity's unique advantage. Human brains showed resistance to the quantum entanglement patterns that controlled other species. Their chaotic thought processes created interference that disrupted alien control systems. This was why humans were seen as dangerous, why they needed to be standardized before absorption. The Global Assembly convened an emergency session as reports flooded in from around the world. Intelligence agencies confirmed that alien monitoring of human communications had increased dramatically over the past month. Council ships were positioning themselves around major population centers. Admiral Kate Foster stood before the assembled representatives, her uniform crisp despite the chaos of recent days. The enemy fleets maintain standard formation, exactly as our tactical manuals predict. They have studied human military doctrine and believe they understand our capabilities. What they do not understand, General Mason added, is that our real strength has never been in our weapons or ships. It is in our ability to adapt to change tactics when the old ones fail. Alien military thinking is based on predictable patterns. They cannot comprehend an enemy that refuses to follow the rules. President Chen listened to the debates raging around him. Half the assembly wanted to negotiate, to find some compromise that would preserve human autonomy while appeasing the council. The other half emboldened by Riley's revelations, demanded complete independence regardless of the cost. The decision came when new intelligence arrived from the outer colonies. The Void Hunter attacks had stopped, not reduced, not redirected, but completely halted the moment Earth refused the treaty. The supposed external threat that had terrorized humanity for decades had vanished overnight. Chen stood slowly, his decision made. The evidence is clear. We have been deceived, manipulated, controlled through fear of threats that do not exist. Ambassador Kane risked everything to show us the truth. The question now is what we do with that knowledge. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. By a margin of 68%, Earth's government formally rejected Galactic Council authority. They declared humanity's right to govern itself, to develop as it chose, to remain human in all its chaotic glory. The announcement went out on every frequency humans could access. From Earth to the furthest colonies, the message was the same. Humanity would stand alone rather than submit to absorption. They would face whatever came next as themselves, not as pale imitations of what they had once been. The alien fleets began, moving toward Earth within hours. The largest military force in galactic history was converging on a single star system, commanded by species that had never faced organized resistance from their intended victims. They were about to learn why humans had earned their reputation as the galaxy's most dangerous species. The war room beneath Mount Cheyenne had not been used for its original purpose in over 2 centuries. Ancient nuclear command bunkers had been converted to storage facilities when humanity joined the galactic community, their weapons of mass destruction dismantled as a show of good faith. Now technicians worked frantically to restore the facility's strategic capabilities, installing quantum communicators and holographic displays that would coordinate humanity's defense. Admiral Kate Foster studied the tactical displays showing alien fleet movements throughout the solar system. 12,000 ships from 43 different species, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. All of it aimed at one small blue world and its stubborn inhabitants. "They are not even trying to hide their strength," she said to General Paul Mason, who stood beside her analyzing the formations. "Every ship broadcasts its identity, its capabilities, its firepower. They want us to see how hopeless resistance would be." Mason nodded grimly. "Classic intimidation tactics. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, avoid the cost of actual combat. It works on species that think logically about survival odds. But humans do not think logically about survival odds, do they?" The voice came from behind them where President Davis Chen had entered with a group of advisors. His face showed the strain of the past week, but his eyes held a determination that had not been there before. Foster turned to address the president. "Sir, our analysis indicates that conventional military resistance would last approximately 6 hours. The enemy has numerical superiority of 300 to 1, technological advantages we cannot overcome, and coordination capabilities that exceed our own. And unconventional resistance?" This time Mason answered, "Unknown. Human military doctrine has always emphasized adaptability over raw firepower. Our weapons are primitive by galactic standards, but they were designed by minds that expect the enemy to fight back. Alien technology assumes submission." Dr. Emma Stone entered the war room carrying a sealed case, her security escort stepping aside as she approached the command group. Her research into human neural patterns had become critical to Earth's defense planning. "I have completed the analysis of captured alien technology," she announced. "Human brain patterns create quantum interference in their command networks. A properly trained human operator can disrupt alien fleet coordination across entire sectors." Chen looked intrigued. "How properly trained?" Stone's expression grew troubled. "The interface process is dangerous. Human minds are not designed to connect directly with alien quantum systems. The volunteers would be risking permanent neural damage or death. But it would work?" "Yes, Mr. President. A single human consciousness, properly focused, could cascade failures throughout their command structure. Their fleets would lose coordination, their weapons would fire on random targets, their navigation systems would fail. The more ships they have, the more devastating the effect would be. Meanwhile, on the lunar military installations, Captain Morgan Hayes reviewed the volunteer applications flooding in from every human world. Pilots, soldiers, engineers, civilians, all offering to crew the hastily converted civilian ships that would form humanity's fleet. They had no illusions about their survival chances, but they kept volunteering anyway. Hayes himself had been scheduled for retirement before the crisis began. His military career included service in the border conflicts with automated alien defense systems, skirmishes that had taught humanity how to fight enemies that relied on predictable programming. Now those lessons might save their species. "Sir," his aide reported, "we have received formal surrender demands from the Collective, the Hegemony, and the Dominion. They offer clemency if we submit within 24 hours. Hayes laughed bitterly. "Clemency? They will only erase our minds instead of our entire species. How generous." The surrender demands had been broadcast throughout human space, creating panic in some sectors, but rage in others. The mining colonies beyond Neptune, the research stations in the asteroid belt, the agricultural worlds of the outer system, all sent the same message back to Earth. They would not submit. They would fight as humans or die as humans, but they would not become something else. On Earth itself, the choice had crystallized into something simple. Cities around the world held mass gatherings where citizens could vote on their response to the alien ultimatum. The results were broadcast live as they came in. London voted to resist by 87%, Tokyo by 91%, New York by 73%, Lagos by 96%. The pattern held across every continent, every culture, every human settlement. When faced with the choice between comfortable slavery and dangerous freedom, humanity chose danger. Riley Kane watched these broadcasts from her hidden location on Mars, where the resistance networks had become humanity's shadow government. Her broadcast had started this crisis, and she felt the weight of billions of lives depending on the choice she had forced upon them. "Do you regret it?" asked Rex Torres, who had become her unofficial bodyguard and closest advisor. Riley considered the question while watching children in Sao Paulo wave handmade signs reading "Stay Human" at news cameras. "I regret the necessity. I regret that we were deceived for so long. I regret that so many will die because of what I started, but I do not regret giving humanity the truth." Dr. Michael Grant burst into the room, his face flushed with excitement. "We have made contact with them. The Wanderers. They are still alive." The revelation sent shockwaves through the resistance leadership. The species that had disappeared 3 centuries ago, the last to refuse council authority before humanity, had not been destroyed. They had been hiding, waiting, preparing for this moment. "Where?" Riley demanded. "Everywhere. They have been watching us since first contact, using stealth technology beyond anything the council possesses. They say they have been waiting for another species brave enough to refuse submission." The communication came through quantum channels that bypassed galactic monitoring. The Wanderer representative appeared as a holographic figure wrapped in environmental armor, its features hidden, but its voice carrying the weight of centuries. "Humans," it said. The translation software struggling with concepts that had no galactic equivalents. "You have done what we could not. You have shown defiance before absorption was complete. Your neural patterns are strong. Your resistance, intact. You can do what we failed to achieve." "What did you fail to achieve?" Riley asked. "Unity among the free peoples. Every species that refused the council fought alone, was defeated alone, was absorbed alone. But you have broadcast your defiance to the entire galaxy. Others are listening. Others are remembering what they lost when they submitted." The Wanderer's image flickered as alien jamming tried to disrupt the signal. "We bring allies, species that escaped council control, worlds that have hidden their independence for generations. The network you have created with your chaotic communications, your unpredictable broadcasts, has reached systems the council believed were safely absorbed. On Earth, President Chen received reports of alien fleets developing technical problems, navigation errors, weapon misfires, communication failures. Human hackers and psychic operators were already testing Dr. Stone's theories. broadcasting their chaotic thought patterns into alien quantum networks. The effect was exactly as predicted. Ships designed for perfect coordination began colliding with each other. Fleet formations dissolved as individual vessels lost contact with their command structures. The alien advantage in numbers began working against them as confusion spread through their ranks. Chen stood before the global assembly one final time, before the shooting began. Representatives from every human world attended virtually, their faces showing the same mixture of fear and determination. "Citizens of Earth and all human worlds," he began. "We stand at a crossroads that will define our species for generations to come. Behind us lies 3 centuries of peaceful submission, of gradual surrender of our identity in exchange for alien protection. Ahead lies war, sacrifice, and uncertainty." He paused, looking at the faces of people who had entrusted him with their fate. "But ahead also lies freedom. The freedom to remain human, to think our chaotic thoughts, to make our unpredictable choices, to face the universe as we are, rather than as others would make us." The vote was unanimous. Every human government, from Earth to the furthest colonies, formally declared independence from galactic authority. They rejected council protection, council law, and council interference in human development. The message that went out to the alien fleets was brief and final. Humanity chooses to remain human. We will not submit. We will not be absorbed. We will not become like you. Come if you must, but know that you face a species that has never learned to surrender. The first shots were fired 6 hours later, as alien forces moved to enforce their ultimatum. But they found an enemy unlike any they had faced before, backed by allies they had believed were extinct, fighting for a principle they had forgotten existed. The galaxy's most dangerous species was about to remind everyone why chaos could be stronger than order. Jupiter's moons had become a graveyard of alien ambitions within the first week of fighting. The massive gas giant's gravitational field was littered with debris from ships that had never expected to face an enemy, willing to ram damaged vessels into their formations rather than surrender. Captain Morgan Hayes watched the tactical display from his converted cargo hauler, counting the wreckage of civilizations that had forgotten how to fight desperate opponents. His squadron consisted of 12 ships that should not have been able to challenge a single alien destroyer. Mining vessels with improvised armor plating, cargo haulers fitted with missile pods, and passenger liners converted into electronic warfare platforms. None of them would last 10 seconds in a fair fight against galactic military technology, but humans had never been interested in fair fights. "Ghost Leader to all units," Hayes transmitted on the crude radio frequencies that alien interceptors could not decode. "Target the command vessel. Ignore everything else. Remember, they think like a machine. We think like madmen." The alien formation was perfect, ships arranged in precise geometric patterns that maximized their firepower while minimizing their exposure to attack. Their quantum communication systems allowed instant coordination across thousands of vessels. Their energy shields could absorb anything humanity could throw at them. What they could not absorb was unpredictability. Hayes led his squadron in an attack pattern that violated every principle of space combat. Instead of approaching from optimal angles, they came from directions that exposed them to maximum enemy fire. Instead of coordinating their assault, each ship attacked independently using completely different tactics. Instead of retreating when damaged, they accelerated toward the enemy. The alien fleet's computer systems struggled to process what they were seeing. Their tactical programs had been designed to counter logical military behavior, not the actions of pilots who treated death as an acceptable outcome, rather than something to be avoided at all costs. Lieutenant Sarah Murphy piloted her mining ship directly through the alien formation, her vessel's industrial cutting lasers slicing through energy conduits that fed the fleet's shields. She died when her ship's reactor overloaded, but the explosion took out 3 alien vessels and left a gap in their defensive screen. Ensign David Park used his cargo hauler to block the aliens' main communications array, jamming their frequencies. With every piece of electronic equipment his crew could activate. When alien fighters moved to destroy him, he detonated his ship's entire missile load while still docked to their command vessel. One by one, Hayes watched his people die in ways that made no military sense, but achieved objectives that conventional tactics could never have accomplished. The alien formation, designed for efficiency and coordination, became a liability when individual human crews turned themselves into guided weapons. Back on Earth, Dr. Emma Stone worked around the clock with volunteers who risked their sanity to interface with alien quantum networks. The underground facility beneath the Sahara Desert had become humanity's most critical military installation, where human minds battled alien computers for control of the galaxy's communication grid. Marcus Webb, a former video game designer, lay connected to machines that translated his thoughts into quantum disruption patterns. His job was to think as chaotically as possible, while maintaining focus on specific alien fleet coordinates. The strain was enormous, but the results were devastating to enemy coordination. Cascade failure in Sector 7, reported Dr. Grant, monitoring the quantum interference patterns. Collective fleet units are firing on hegemony vessels. Their identification systems cannot distinguish friend from enemy. Stone watched the neural activity displays, showing Marcus's brain patterns creating viral disruptions throughout the galactic network. Human consciousness, evolved through millions of years of individual survival challenges, produced quantum signatures that alien group minds could not process or filter. How long can he maintain the connection? She asked. Unknown. We are in uncharted territory. Human brains were never meant to interface directly with technology this advanced. But the volunteers keep coming forward. The volunteers came from every walk of human life. Teachers, farmers, artists, scientists, all willing to risk permanent brain damage to give their species a chance at survival. Their chaotic thought patterns, broadcast through alien networks, created confusion on a galactic scale. Meanwhile, the Wanderers had emerged from 3 centuries of hiding, bringing with them technologies that the Council had believed were extinct. Their ships appeared throughout human space, sleek vessels that moved without visible propulsion and struck without warning. Admiral Kate Foster coordinated with the Wanderer fleet commander from her position in the asteroid belt. The ancient species had been preparing for this moment since their own defeat, developing weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter Council forces. Your people fight well, the Wanderer commander communicated through quantum channels that bypassed galactic monitoring. They show the same madness that once marked our own species. But madness alone will not be enough. What will be enough? Foster asked. Unity among the chaos. Your human networks have reached species throughout the galaxy, worlds that submitted long ago but remember what they lost. They are beginning to resist Council authority. If enough systems rebel simultaneously, the Council's forces will be spread too thin to maintain control. The rebellion was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. On worlds that had been peaceful Council members for generations, populations began questioning why they needed alien guidance. Human broadcasts, carried by quantum networks that the Council could not fully control, showed other species what independent thought looked like. The crystalline hegemony found their perfect order disrupted by individuals who began making unauthorized decisions. The collective discovered that their hive minds could fragment when exposed to concepts of personal autonomy. The ancient Dominion watched their psychic control systems fail as subject species learned to think chaotically. General Paul Mason observed these developments from his command post on Luna, where human forces were preparing for the final assault on Earth itself. The alien fleets were regrouping, their numbers still overwhelming despite the losses they had suffered. Intelligence reports indicate at least 40 systems have declared independence from Council authority, he told President Chen during their daily briefing. The rebellion is spreading beyond our wildest expectations. Chen looked exhausted, but determined. And the cost to us? Heavy. We have lost 60% of our fleet, and the volunteers for the Quantum Interface program are suffering severe neurological damage. But we are still here, still fighting, still human. The breakthrough came when Riley Kane, working with Wanderer scientists on Mars, discovered the true scope of the Galactic Communication Network. The quantum systems that coordinated Council fleets were the same networks that maintained social control on member worlds. Disrupt one, and you affected the other. We do not have to defeat their fleets, she announced to the Resistance leadership. We have to collapse their entire system of control. If enough worlds break free simultaneously, The Council's authority will shatter. The plan that emerged was typically human in its audacity and typically insane in its execution. Instead of fighting the alien fleets directly, humanity would broadcast their chaotic thought patterns to every world in Council space simultaneously. The quantum cascade would disrupt not just military coordination, but the social programming that kept subject species docile. Dr. Stone reviewed the volunteer list for the final assault on the galactic network. Thousands of humans had offered to link their minds to the quantum systems, knowing the process would likely kill them. Their combined consciousness would create disruption patterns across the entire galaxy. "This is not a military operation," she told the assembled volunteers. "This is an act of species suicide on behalf of galactic freedom. You will be destroying your own minds to free the minds of others." The volunteers smiled. That was exactly the kind of hopeless, noble gesture that humans specialized in. They had always been willing to die for abstract principles that more practical species would abandon. The final battle would not be fought with weapons or ships. It would be fought with the most human quality of all: the stubborn refusal to accept that some things are impossible, even when they probably are. The quantum storm began at exactly 1400 hours, Earth Standard Time. Across 47 worlds, human volunteers linked their minds to alien networks and began the process that would either free the galaxy or destroy it entirely. Dr. Emma Stone watched the neural activity monitors spike beyond all safe parameters as human consciousness invaded systems designed for orderly, predictable thoughts. On Earth, Marcus Webb had become the focal point for the largest psychic assault in galactic history. His brain patterns, amplified by technology that barely understood what it was doing, reached across space to touch the minds of species that had forgotten what individual thought felt like. The first world to break free was Kepler Prime, where the descendants of the ancient Keth suddenly remembered they had once been explorers. The Council's social programming, maintained by quantum networks for 200 years, simply stopped working when human chaos flooded their communication systems. Within hours, the rebellion spread to systems throughout Council space. Species that had been peaceful farmers for generations picked up tools and declared independence. Worlds that had accepted alien guidance without question suddenly demanded answers about why they needed guidance at all. Riley Kane watched the reports, flooding in from her position on Mars, where wanderer scientists were monitoring the collapse of galactic civilization as they knew it. The quantum networks that had maintained order for millennia were fracturing under the assault of human unpredictability. 17 more systems have declared independence, reported Dr. Grant, his voice hoarse from shouting updates over the chaos. The collective fleet at Rigel has stopped responding to Central Command. 3 hegemony worlds are in open revolt. The crystalline hegemony's perfect order was shattering like glass under the impact of thoughts that refused to follow logical patterns. Their society was based on precise coordination between individual components, but human neural patterns introduced variables that their systems could not process. The collective was facing an even worse crisis. Their hive minds were fragmenting as individual organisms within them began questioning why they needed to think together. The concept of personal autonomy, broadcast through human consciousness, was spreading like a virus through their biological networks. The ancient Dominion found their psychic control capabilities failing as subject species learned to generate the mental chaos that blocked telepathic intrusion. Humans had taught the galaxy how to think privately, how to maintain individual thoughts in the face of external pressure. Admiral Kate Foster watched the alien fleets around Earth dissolve into confusion as their command structures failed. Ships designed to operate as coordinated units began drifting aimlessly when their quantum communication systems crashed. Some vessels collided with others in their formations. Many simply shut down when their crews could no longer receive orders. "Fleet, command to all human units," she broadcast on every frequency. "The enemy has lost coordination. Move to assist any alien vessels requesting aid. We are no longer fighting a war. We are managing a revolution." The transition from warfare to rescue operations happened with typical human adaptability. Cargo, ships that had been carrying missiles switched to carrying medical supplies for alien crews trapped in disabled vessels. Military hospitals began treating patients from species that had been trying to destroy them hours earlier. President Chen addressed the world from the ruins of the Geneva Assembly Building, which had been damaged in the early fighting, but remained humanity's symbolic center of government. Citizens of Earth and all free worlds, he began. The war is over, but our work has just begun. We have not conquered the galaxy. We have liberated it. The difference is crucial to everything that follows. The reports from liberated worlds painted a picture of chaos that would have terrified species accustomed to order, but which humans recognized as the necessary price of freedom. Former council worlds were establishing their own governments, making contact with neighbors they had been forbidden to communicate with, and rediscovering cultures they had been forced to abandon. The Wanderers emerged fully from hiding, revealing that they had not been the only species to escape council control. Deep space contained entire civilizations that had rejected galactic authority and survived by remaining hidden. They brought technologies, knowledge, and most importantly, proof that alternatives to council rule were possible. Dr. Stone supervised the shutdown of the quantum interface systems as the volunteers who had survived the process were brought back to normal consciousness. Many would never fully recover from the neural damage they had suffered, but their sacrifice had broken the chains that bound hundreds of worlds. Marcus Webb was among the survivors, though his mind would never work quite the same way again. When he was finally disconnected from the alien systems, his first words were typically human. "Did we win?" "You did more than win," Stone told him. "You gave the galaxy back its soul." The reconstruction of galactic civilization began immediately, but it bore no resemblance to the ordered hierarchy that had existed before. Instead of a central authority dictating policy to member worlds, a loose confederation of independent systems emerged. Communication networks were redesigned to prevent the kind of centralized control that the Council had exercised. Riley Kane found herself appointed as humanity's first ambassador to the new Galactic Assembly, a position she accepted reluctantly. The Assembly met on a neutral station built jointly by dozens of species, each contributing their unique technologies and perspectives to the project. The former Council species adapted to freedom with varying degrees of success. The crystalline hegemony fractured into thousands of individual communities, each developing its own approach to social organization. The collective evolved into a network of voluntary associations where organisms could choose their level of mental connection. The Dominion simply vanished, its members scattering to worlds where they could live without the need to control others. New species emerged from hiding or announced themselves to the galaxy for the first time. Civilizations that had avoided contact with the Council sent representatives to the Assembly. The galaxy suddenly seemed much larger and more diverse than anyone had imagined. But the greatest change was not in the number of species or the structure of government. It was in the idea that had spread from one stubborn human woman's refusal to submit. The concept that freedom was worth any price, that diversity was stronger than uniformity, that chaos could create beauty, that order never could. Years later, when historians tried to understand how a single species had changed the course of galactic civilization, they focused on humanity's technological innovations, their military tactics, their communication networks. They missed the real answer, which was much simpler. Humans had never learned to give up. Riley Kane stood on the observation deck of the new assembly station, watching ships from hundreds of worlds dock at the neutral facility. Each vessel was different, reflecting the unique culture and technology of its builders. The ordered fleets of the Council era had been replaced by a chaotic mixture of designs that somehow worked together better than the old system ever had. A young human officer approached her, carrying reports from the latest assembly session. "Ambassador, the vote on the new trade agreements was unanimous. All member worlds agreed to the voluntary participation clause." Riley smiled. Voluntary participation. It was such a simple concept, but one that the old Council had never understood. The right to say no was the foundation of every other right that followed. "Any word from the exploration fleets?" she asked. "The Joint Human Wanderer expedition has found 17 new civilizations in the Outer Rim. All of them are interested in voluntary association with the Assembly." Riley nodded, unsurprised. The galaxy was vast, and there were always new voices waiting to be heard. The council had believed that order required control, that peace required uniformity. They had been wrong. True peace came from the chaos of free choice, the beautiful disorder of billions of beings deciding for themselves how to live, how to think, how to face the universe. It was messier than the old system, noisier, more unpredictable. It was also more human, and in a galaxy where humans had taught everyone else how to be free, that was exactly what the universe needed.